Hello, good morning. Yes, it is the same day as Rhaenyra episode 5. Yes, I'm working on multiple things at the same time. Welcome to Alicent episode 1. Listen, I'm a Rhaenyra girly through and through, but when I tell you we're gonna have the perfect House of Dragons group, we're gonna have the perfect group. So that means I gotta make an Alicent and a Kristen Cole. We're gonna do it. It's gonna be great. So this is the Alicent we're working on today. I love doing that. I have been looking at this dress for a minute now, and there are no visible seam lines except for the center front seam. So I was like, that's not right. This is what I have discovered. There's a couple little like pleats under the pleats, not pleats. There's a couple darts under the trim here. You can just barely see them. I don't know if you can see them, but I can see them. There's one here, and then there's one here. So, you know, one here, one here. Got it. And then I was looking at it and I was like, this is not where the side seam is. Then I realized there's a side panel. Got it. Do you know how I feel about a side panel? Maybe we won't do a side panel. Maybe we'll still do princess seams. This is our pattern. Can you see that? Ta-da. But now I'm starting to feel like we don't do a side panel. You can't see the side of the dress. Anyways, no one needs to know that I think there's a side panel there. So we're just gonna tear into this pattern, I guess. I'm trying to think of a way that I can just use this same princess seam pattern. The answer is I have to make a completely new princess seam pattern. Bro, do I just like, I have to do a fitting anyways. I might as well just do a side panel. Okay, I've also never done a sleeve like this, so this will be interesting. Today we're going to pattern. I have to clear off so much off my table. So we pattern and then we'll work on the sample. Lexi told me to just let her know when I'm ready for a fitting, so I'm just gonna try to like cruise through this, get lost in my audiobook. It's finally getting good. The book was so boring for like 300 pages. We're finally getting into it. Yeah, so now I'm ready to just like sit down and just like jam. So let's do that. Let's just sit down and jam. For this pattern, I need to transfer this dart from the waistline into the side seam. That's just going to be the easiest way to close up that dart. So I'm just going to trace around the section that I need to move, and then I will put an awl in the pivot point, that's the apex, and I'll just connect those and draw the remainder of the pattern piece in, making sure that the apex also gets marked. I'm just gonna straighten out everything and then draw in those lines that I'm eventually gonna get rid of. Now I'm gonna find the center of the dart through measuring. I'm gonna mark that center line so that I can back off of the apex by an inch. This is just to make it less pointy right on the boob. And then I'm gonna draw in our new seam lines, and I'm gonna fold these preemptively. It just makes it easier for tracing new princess seam lines. I like to use this tracing wheel a lot when I'm doing stuff like this. This just gets me super accurate lines in that excess material. I'm gonna go ahead now and separate those pattern pieces down that princess seam line that I just drew. And in doing that, I can tape up the excess material in that dart that is no longer needed. That will just be what the piece looks like. Next, I'm going to line up the pattern pieces along the princess seam, and I'm going to add in 2 notches, one on either side of the apex. This just allows for better control when you're sewing it. Usually your apex has a little bit of ease in it. It's not a perfect walking pattern, and so having those 2 notches just controls the variability more. Especially as you see me shaving off a little bit of that weird point. We want that to be very flat and round at the end. I got a Red Bull. I'm ready to freaking go. I'm ready to get back to this.
This base pattern piece that I have created only goes to the waist, and as there's no waist seam on this dress, and because this piece is very specific and I hate taping on seam allowance, I'm actually just gonna put it on a new piece of paper and trace it with a tracing wheel and with a pencil. I don't need the entire neckline because I know it is going to go down quite a bit, so I'm just going to mark our neck shoulder seam and exactly where I know it's gonna hit on the clavicle, and then I'm just gonna trace those lines. To add the skirt, I'm going to use this basic straight skirt pattern, and I'm going to use the exact same technique for getting rid of the notches that I used on the bodice. This is just going to turn it into an A-line skirt, so it's not nearly as fitted, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. And I'm basically just trying to get this waistline and proper kind of angle for the skirt to go off of. Once I have our base A-line skirt, I'm going to take our original pattern and walk the waist along it so that I can get that point of where I put in that new princess seam. And I'm going to mark that on the skirt pattern. I'm going to do that for both the front and the side to make sure that they're the exact same and that I didn't go wrong anywhere in transferring the ease out of these patterns. You can see me cutting out these pattern pieces so that I can do the exact same tracing method with the skirt that I did with the bodice. When I line up the skirt pattern, I'm going to make sure that our center fronts are straight on with each other, and then I'm going to just line up the waist seam on the corner, if that makes sense. I'm adding a little bit of length on the front, but that's fine. That'll be taken out in our hem at the end. For our back bodice, I traced my sloper, and then while I was tracing it, I transferred the shoulder notch into the armhole to add a little bit of extra ease, and then I'm just scooching our notch over a little bit. I'm just measuring the exact height and width of it, and then transferring it because I can just use that exact same line and then just draw a new one into the armhole. And I once again did the exact same thing with the skirt pattern, and yeah, basically following exactly what I did on the first one, but I didn't take out that shoulder notch ease out of the sleeve. I left it there. For the side panel, because we are not going to have a side seam in this dress, I have drawn a straight line on both side seams from the armhole to our hip notch, because I know that those will have to line up exactly and that we can take the excess out of the princess seams during our fitting. I'm just making sure that our hip lines and our waist lines all perfectly match up before I cut everything out and tape it together.
Okay, I know there's a way that I can take this out of the sides now. I attempted it and it did not walk. So I'm just gonna put these on muslin and then put it on my dress form. Lexi's gonna come over tomorrow since I got this done way sooner than I thought I would, and we'll do a fitting on her then. So I'll do 2 samples for this dress. And yeah, there's also still like the pleats in the top here. Oh, actually, I bet you I could figure that out right now, because there's excess right here. Hang on.
Now I'm going to show the other method of how you can transfer darts in patterns. This is not the method I usually go for, but I'm just going to mark out that remainder of the dart all the way to the apex actually, because I am transferring it. And then I'm going to mark out where I want my new darts to be. And because I'm turning it into 2, I actually found the halfway point on our dart excess, and I'm only moving each side into that halfway point. And then I'm going to cut everything apart, add in some new paper, and do the exact same thing for the other dart. I ended up drawing in a completely new neckline right now because I knew that I would be readjusting these darts during the fitting, and that this was basically only to get the excess into the neckline. These aren't the perfect darts right now. In fact, they're just pleats in this iteration of the pattern.
Okay, now it's time to put it in muslin and do a sample.
Because I have a center front seam, I can actually take some of the excess out of the center front seam, and it does not have to be a perfectly straight seam because it's not folded. That was super helpful in this. And then I actually ended up adding a 3rd dart off to the side because there was a little bit of extra ease in the neckline, and I knew it would be covered by the trim anyways. I'm just going to go in on the muslin and perfect these lines and make them nice and pretty before I eventually transfer them onto the pattern pieces. I'm gonna be honest, I think I totally guessed on the angle of the skirt. I knew the front could be semi-fitted, but the rest of it, I just kind of like to draw lines down. I don't usually do perfectly straight lines because then that makes it impossible to find fabric wide enough, usually. And then to find the hem, I will usually just take a tape measure and a measurement from the waist to where the hem is going to end, and I will run the tape measure along the waistline, and that finds a really nice hem for me. For the side seams, you can see I actually did the hem before I completed the actual side seams, and that is because I kind of wanted to know exactly how much paper I was going to need on each side before I just blindly was attaching too much paper. I'm just saving materials here and being real indecisive with how wide this pattern piece was going to be. The sleeve was super awkward for me to do. I had no idea what I was doing, and the textbook didn't even help. So I started out by finding our elbow point and then drawing a new underarm seam that went straight down from the armhole to that point. And then I went in and I made 2-inch marks on either side of the center of the seam. This is to add material to the sleeve. This is called slash and spreading, the way that I'm doing it. I added 1 inch at 4 different points along the elbow line. On the outer one, I actually added the inch, but it was only after the elbow point. I also kind of spread it along the elbow seam a little bit so that it would have more of the shape that I needed the sleeve to have. I definitely went back in and exaggerated it more, and then I can't even remember how I found the hem for the sleeve because it's such an awkward high-low that is not based off of these seam lines at all. It was a lot of twisting and curving and pinning, and I can't really describe what I did. This was a little great hack that I created where I taped out the exact width of the fabric that we were going to use to find the yardage, and then I laid out all of my pattern pieces and taped them down and then measured it to find the exact yardage.
Wow, what a clip. My goodness. Okay. Here's what's going on now. So the Alicent pattern is done. I want to make a mock-up of the sleeve because I don't trust it. But I got all of the yardage like a week ago, maybe even 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. I got all the yardage and then I did the math for how much yardage we're gonna need, plus like how much of exactly each trim we're going to need, because there's 3 different trims. I have all of them now at this point, but I needed 6 yards of fabric, 3.5 yards of the gold base trim, 3.5 yards of the faceted faceted trim, and then 2 yards of the beaded chain trim. So I have all of that, and I have both of the fabrics, the lining and the regular fabric, and as soon as I test out the sleeve pattern and make sure that I like it, we're good to cut out, we're good to sew. I have a 3-day weekend, yay. So we're just gonna like literally get rolling and see how much of this costume I can get done, because I wanna say, including today, I only have 10 more days off before con. We have to get rolling. Yeah, this is probably something that I can take to work and like during my lunch break and during downtimes and stuff. I can sit and hand sew the trims onto it. I also am planning to pass this off to Lexi to let her sew some of the trims on as soon as it's ready. Yeah, we're good to just get rolling on it, get started, get going. I'm excited. Okay, I have all of the Alicent fabric cut out now, at least like the face fabric. I don't have the lining cut out yet. I'm still trying to decide what to line, but I still need to mark our darts. And so what I'm gonna do is mark the darts, sew all of the darts, and then I'm going to serge all of the edges so that it's nice and clean, just in case I only line the bodice. I'm for sure not lining the sleeves. For sure lining the sleeves and the bodice. I don't think I'm gonna line the skirt. Like we don't need to fully line the skirt. Like that would be crazy. So I will probably have to make a lining pattern of just the bodice of the dress, which should be super easy. Super easy. So I'm gonna like absolutely lock in and do that now, so that I can just start sewing this portion of the dress together. And then yeah, I really don't want to have to cut out any more fabric today because I have to be on the floor to do it and it's just wrecking me.
I'm gonna be honest, the lining patterns are just the regular patterns, completely traced, except I added, I think, 3 inches onto the waistline. Yeah, that's basically it. I also had to make another sleeve because she does have an underdress in this dress, but I didn't want to make that. I thought it would be too hot, so I just attached a straight sleeve to the lining material. So there's technically 3 different sleeve pieces on this dress. When I tell you I had to redo these sleeves about 6 times because I kept putting them in the wrong way, that's not an exaggeration. These sleeves were awful. Okay, I handed off the dress to Alexi, and this is how she gave it back. I guess I could pull back a little bit. So she went ahead and she hand sewed all of the trims on. I have actually found out that there is another trim under this, and that this is on wrong, and that these are on wrong. So I will in fact be taking these all off and leaving just this. I think the new trim was maybe delivered, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, this is basically just like every 4th one is left on here, I think. Or maybe it's like they're spread out quite a bit. And then there's also some spots where I did have to undo the stitching because it was stuck in the lining a little too much because of how I handed it off to her. But that is what that looks like. And then, oh my god, that turned so nicely. I put in this bright green invisible zipper that I need to go in and fix in a couple spots. And then it ends there. And we just have a hook and eye up here. In the show, it is a lace up, but this just fits Lexi so well that I was like, we won't even bother. We'll just, you know, do that. This is also, the dress form doesn't quite like fit. I put the dress on and then I adjusted the dress form to fit it. So yeah, this isn't actually how the dress fits on Lexi, but that is completely finished. There's a few spots, one of the sleeves, the like end of the trim is really frayed. Oh yeah, this one. So I need to go in and fix that up, but other than all of that I just mentioned, this dress is pretty much done. Oh, I also need to go back in and finish the hem. So I machine sewed it temporarily, but I also added horsehair. So I'm gonna go in and do an invisible hand stitch at the top of the horsehair and then take out the machine stitch just because I want it to be very clean. Not that you would ever notice it, anyone but me, but that's something that's gonna bug me, so I'm gonna fix that. Yeah, that's our update at the Mo. Hi, editing me here. I would like it to be made aware that I didn't really film a lot of talking clips for this video, so I am actually gonna end it here, and then the next video will be all about the belt and finishing touches. This just seems like a great point to stop it, and it is in fact sitting right there, and I have been working on it. I have trims off, I have the hem almost like halfway done, so yeah, I'm just trying to get all of this footage out and done first. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I learned a lot. I have to go in and do the voiceover, so I hope I remember everything that I did 2 months later. That's it. Thanks for being here. Goodbye.